Morning, everybody. Welcome to Publishing Arizona, a workshop for historians. I'm thankful that you all joined us on a Saturday morning. Well, it's Saturday morning here in Tucson, but maybe afternoon for you all. I want to thank you for taking your time and coming about and to hear about the different ways, different places where you can publish your research, like the Journal of Arizona and the University of Arizona Press. And we're just going to have a really kind of a conversation with some amazing panelists. First off, I'm going to tell you a little bit about AHS. The Arizona Historical Society is a nonprofit educational and cultural institution and state agency established in 1864. AHS collects, preserves, and tells the story of Arizona's past through museum exhibits, libraries, collections, outreach, educational programs, and publishing. AHS preserves our past, shares our state stories, and connects people through the power of Arizona's history. And if you've all been here to research or planning to, you're going to be very excited. All right, I am your host, Dr. Laura Key. I'm the managing editor of the Journal of Arizona History, and I'm also the coordinator of the AHS Research Fellowship, which you're going to hear about in a little bit here. Next up is Dr. David Turpey, who is Vice President of Publications and Outreach at Arizona Historical Society, and he is also the editor of the Journal of Arizona History. And David's waving over there. Hello,
hello, everyone.
There we go. Next up is Dr. Catherine Morrissey, Professor and Chair of the University of Arizona History Department. She is also the book series editor at the University of Arizona Press with the series of Arizona Crossroads, which again, you're going to hear all about today. Next is Kristen. Everyone. Oh, sorry. And then I cut you off. I am so sorry. This is Catherine.
Good morning.
Next up is Kristen Buckles, who is the editor-in-chief at the University of Arizona Press. Kristen.
Hi, everyone.
Next is Isabel Cazares, archivist and librarian at the Arizona Historical Society in Tempe.
Hello.
Next is Perry Pyle, archivist and librarian at Arizona Historical Society in Tucson. And I don't know where she went. She'll be here. She was having difficulties, but she'll be here. Next is Janie Adams, who is the Arizona Historical Society History Engagement Coordinator and our tech webinar guru for today.
Good morning, everyone.
Just so you know, this program is being recorded and it will be on our AHS YouTube page, and you will also be receiving a link to the video after the program early next week. At the end of the program and with that email, we'll have some resources for you that our panelists are going to be talking about, and you'll receive those links through that email when you get your video. So don't worry about, you're like, oh, I didn't catch that web address. Don't worry, you're going to get them at the end of the program in the email. So no stresses. All right, first off, I am going to hand the program over to Dr. David Turpey, editor of the Journal of Arizona History. Dr. Turpey.
Great, thank you, Laura, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. Let me see if I can share my screen. I'm going to talk about the Journal of Arizona History this morning. And there we go. Okay, can everybody see that? Looks good?
We're good.
Okay, good, thanks, Laura. All right, well, I wanted to start off with giving some background information about the Journal of Arizona History. Like most history journals, the JAH is published quarterly. In a typical issue, we publish 2 or 3 articles and between 10 and 15 book reviews. Articles are usually somewhere in the 20 to 30 page range, although we're a little bit flexible when it comes to page count. Most of what we publish are articles based on original research in primary sources, but we also occasionally publish other types of essays, including historiographical essays, photo essays, think pieces on a particular topic. And we've also recently put together a few roundtables, essentially conversations between historians. So we're open to different formats. In addition, I'm a big fan of producing special issues, which means that sometimes we pick a topic or theme and then all of the articles in that issue tie in with that topic or theme. Our special issues tend to be larger than a regular issue, and they feature typically around 5 to 7 articles, although sometimes we've gone bigger, as much as 13 even. We've produced several important special issues over the last few years, and I just thought I would very briefly mention them. In 2019, we produced this quite large special issue on the Grand Canyon for the 100th anniversary of it becoming a national park. Then in early 2020, we produced a special issue on Barry Goldwater's presidential run in 1964. Later that year, Catherine Morrissey guest edited this really amazing special issue. This is the one that has 13 articles that I mentioned. It's over 400 pages long, and it's it's a snapshot of Arizona history. Kind of, we ask scholars to talk about their research and sort of where Arizona history stands right now. Then in summer 21, we published an issue on Arizona monuments, very relevant topic. Later that year, we had a special issue on Arizona sports. And then last year, we published a special issue called Imagining Arizona, which looked at the myths surrounding Arizona and the ways that certain people and certain groups have pushed back against those myths. We also have special issues planned for the future. This year, right now, we're actually working on final copy edits for the summer issue, which is a special issue on Indigenous Arizona. Later in the year, we have a special issue that's comparing Arizona and Kentucky history as a sort of a lens to compare Southern and Western history more broadly. Next year, we have a special issue on environmental history planned. And then in 2025, we have 2 special issues planned. One on Arizona before the US takeover, and then one on Arizona mining history. If you're interested in any of these special issues I mentioned from the past, we often have print copies available to order. We have an online store on the AHS website, or you can check any of them out online. Oh, I forgot about. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention this. We have some special issue ideas that are sort of in the works. We're sort of thinking through them, trying to see if we can find enough authors to produce these special issues, just some topics that we're interested in and we think are important for Arizona history. But sorry, yeah, as I was saying, current issues of the Journal of Arizona History are available on Project Muse. This is the landing page for Project Muse for the Journal of Arizona History. So if you're interested in any of those recent issues, and if you have access, you can check out issues of the journal online. And then we also have back issues of the journal dating back to 1960 on JSTOR. So because the Journal of Arizona History is available in both print and online, the work of our authors is widely accessible to people all over the country and all over the globe. So if you publish with the Journal of Arizona History, your work will be seen by other scholars, other historians. All right. Well, thank you for indulging me as I gave you some background information about the journal. Now let me talk a little bit about the submission and peer review process. First, let me say the Journal of Arizona History is open to publishing essays on any topic in Arizona history and essays on any time period in Arizona history. Likewise, anyone is welcome to submit a manuscript to the Journal of Arizona History. Authors do not have to be professional historians. We have certain things we are looking for, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a minute. And we have our in-house standards, but any author who meets those criteria can be published in the Journal of Arizona History. The submission process is pretty informal. I like to keep things pretty informal. We don't have an online portal or anything like that where authors submit. The submission process just consists of sending me an email at this email address. and you know, in the body of the email, just say, hey, I'm formally submitting this to the Journal of Arizona History. If you have a completed manuscript, you can send it to me at this email address, or if you're still working on a project, you can email me and sort of test the waters. You know, in other words, describe your project to me and talk it through, and I can tell you if I think it would be a good fit for the Journal of Arizona History. So we try to make submitting your work as easy as possible. We do have more in-depth submission guidelines, which you can find on the Arizona Historical Society website on the publications page. As for the peer review process, when we receive a new submission, I do an initial evaluation myself, or Laura might do it in some cases. And we're looking for a few things. So the first is research. We look really carefully at the footnotes, at the citations. At this point, I'm not as concerned about the writing. Of course, readability is very important for the Journal of Arizona History. You know, besides going online on Project Muse, the journal is also printed and mailed to Arizona Historical Society members, most of whom are not professional historians. So we want articles that are readable and use accessible language. But during this initial evaluation stage, writing issues aren't necessarily our main concern. We can work with authors to help them improve their writing if need be. What we can't do in most cases is help authors do research. So that's the first thing that we're looking for. Is this paper well researched? Has the author done their due diligence and uncovered an appropriate amount of sources? The next is context. I think context is very important. Historical figures didn't exist in a vacuum, and historical events didn't take place in a vacuum. For example, imagine an essay about someone who worked at Davis-Monthan Air Base in the 1950s, but the essay doesn't mention the Cold War once. That's kind of a problem. So we're looking for essays that place their subject in historical context. Third, does this essay do more than just tell a fun story about Arizona history? Sometimes there are essays that do that, and they're great, and you know they're good enough to pass this initial round. But most of the time, we want authors to go deeper than that. We want authors to explain to readers why we should care about the particular topic that they've written about. Why does this person or event or thing from the past matter to readers today? So we're looking to see if authors answer those questions. And finally, we're interested in new topics and new approaches to Arizona history. If an author submits an essay on a topic that has already been written about numerous times, we're less likely to move that manuscript forward in the process. But that said, if it's a familiar topic, but the author approaches it from a new angle, we would be interested in that. So if a manuscript passes that first round of evaluation, which is either me looking at it or Laura or both of us, it then gets sent out for peer review to either one reviewer or ideally two reviewers who are experts in the field. It's an anonymous process. The author doesn't know who the reviewers are, and the reviewers don't know who the author is. This process can take several months and sometimes longer. We do our best to find peer reviewers who have written in the field and who know the subject matter well. We ask them to write a short report and give their overall thoughts on the manuscript. Based on these peer reviewer reports, we then decide one of these three things: either accept the manuscript with only minor revisions, revise and resubmit, or we might reject at that point. I'd say most authors tend to fall under B, revise and resubmit. Clearly, we can't publish all the manuscripts we receive. I've never actually calculated our acceptance rate, but I would estimate that it's somewhere around 35 to 40% for unsolicited manuscript submissions. Once a manuscript is accepted for publication, I then inform the author when their work will appear in the journal, often a year or so out. And then I give deadlines for making any final revisions and submitting a final draft, and also ask for image ideas. So what's the point of all this, the peer reviews and asking for extensive revisions in some cases? The point is we actually do care about the work of our authors. We want to help authors improve their work as much as possible, and we do everything we can to help them before their work appears in print. All right, so let me just conclude quickly with a little bit of a sales pitch. I think Arizona is one of the most important states in the country for historians to study. It's at the center of many important issues today, from climate change to immigration, among other issues. In order to understand Arizona today, we need to know a lot more about our state's past. And to do that, we need a lot more scholars coming here to do research and then publishing in the Journal of Arizona History or in our new book series, Arizona Crossroads, which Catherine Morrissey will tell you a little bit about right now.
Thank you, David. I don't need to probably show the screen, so if you want to close your video, your slides, that'd be great. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks, David, as well as thanks to Laura Key and the Arizona Historical Society for sponsoring this online event. And as Laura mentioned, I'm here, and David too, I'm here to represent a new book series, Arizona Crossroads, for which I serve as one of 3 book series editors. It's a wonderful collaboration between the Arizona Historical Society and the University of Arizona Press. It was just launched last year. And books in Arizona Crossroads explore the history of the place we know today as Arizona, the history of peoples and cultures, events and struggles, ideas and practices. Now, my co-series editors include Anita Jose Hernandez from Arizona State University and Eric Meeks from Northern Arizona University. And yes, since I'm at the University of Arizona, we represent all 3 of Arizona's major universities. And we're really excited to join together for this book series. And, you know, we're colleagues, we're friends, we're scholars, and we each research and teach and publish in related areas of Arizona, Southwestern, and Borderlands history from our own disciplinary and interdisciplinary perspectives. And we're very excited and motivated to encourage and sustain new scholarship on Arizona, as David suggests, especially scholarship which explores the crossroads of this region. Yes, that's the title, Arizona Crossroads. And so I wanted to start by saying a little bit about that. That title, Arizona Crossroads, captures our intent as book series editors. Might want to think about the term crossroads. Yes, it's an intersection. It brings together 2 or more roads, but we also mean it as well as an analogy that it brings together ideas and peoples as well. It is, of course, a physical place, a geographical place, and certainly the place we know as today as Arizona has long been an intersection of indigenous peoples, an intersection of settler colonists, of immigrants from around the world. A crossroads, though, too, is also not, if it's a geographical place, it's also not a static place. Implicit within the name is movement and change. And as David hinted, Arizona has been a contested site among peoples and nations and empires. It's also a place where events, decisions, struggles have had far-reaching consequences beyond its shifting borders. So think of another meaning of crossroads. That is, when you say you're at a crossroads, it means you're sort of at a critical juncture, a point of decision, a crisis moment, a situation that requires some important choices to be made. So Arizona and the larger region in which it's situated has long been a crossroads in this sense as well. Whether as because of its proximity to the international border, presently it's a hotspot for immigration debates, And these crisis situations that take place in Arizona, not just in the present, but in the past, have played themselves out in really significant ways. So when we titled our book series, Arizona Crossroads, a history book series, we are looking for books that look beyond the boundaries of the state, that look beyond the present, and consider these types of crossroads and all those sets of meanings. You know, Arizona's history is a really fruitful entry point for larger conversations that have great meaning today. So we want to welcome books that deepen our understanding of Arizona as a diverse crossroads and a meeting ground. All right, I've probably gone on too long about Arizona Crossroads, but I hope you get a sense of the flavor with which we bring to this book series as book series editors. So who are we? Eric, Anita, and I are an interdisciplinary crew. My own training is in American Studies. Eric Meeks is in history, and Anita Hernandez is in literary studies and archives. We all study the past. We're all interested in change over time in the past, and we all have focused and published in topics that relate to Arizona history, broadly conceived. And we're engaged by the exciting scholarship that exists now and that can exist in the future at the intersection of disciplinary practices. You know, I'm pleased to say that our first book is in process. We've selected an edited volume as our #1 book. It brings together this wonderful set of Latinx scholars who examine the often neglected histories of Mexicans and Mexican Americans and Hispanics in the region. It circulates around oral histories, it draws on a range of disciplines, and each of its chapters collectively suggests the ways that collective memories challenge existing historical knowledges and archives. So it's intellectually rich, geographically specific, and broad in its scope. It's an ideal first book. Maybe you have a book project in mind like that, or something else, not an edited book collection, but a monograph that touches on some aspects of the topics I've been talking about. And we want you to contact us. We're open to a variety of book formats, as that suggested. It could be multi-authored work, as well as broader, more synthetic works. And of course, interdisciplinary projects that engage the past are encouraged as well. If you're out there thinking, okay, I'm going to want to publish a book, but why should I publish in a series? You know, I think there's good reasons to publish in a book series. You're in the company of related books, and yes, that helps readers find your work. And that's on the back end, right? But there's a lot of value too in the front end. And that's in the strengths that Eric and Eden and I bring as editors. We work with the University of Arizona Press and with you to bring a match together, to bring the book to production. So we're really excited to work with authors. We love talking about intellectual ideas. And we're really familiar as scholars ourselves and published scholars with all the different projects that are possible out there, but also with our related disciplinary and interdisciplinary field. So we can serve as a sounding board. We can help you think through ideas. You know, you can ask, will your manuscript fit into this series? Or if not, hey, we can give you suggestions of where it might find a home. Yeah, because not everything's going to fit into our series. You know, we're history-based. We're nonfiction, right? So if you have a work of creative writing, or maybe you have a genealogical project or a children's book, Arizona Crossroads, not really a good fit for you. We are open to any topic within any time period of Arizona history. And, you know, as book series editors, we're really interested in scholarship that's innovative, cutting edge, but also accessible and readable to an educated general audience. So pitch us your ideas. Send us an email or talk to us. We're regular attendees at a whole series of academic conferences, and I'll send a list out about where you can find us. So let's say you've talked to us, you've got a great idea. We're like, oh, this is fantastic. Let's work on that. The next step is to develop a book proposal. There are two great guidelines for that I just wanted to touch on briefly in my time today. The first, of course, is the information that's available on the University of Arizona Press page, information for authors about what a book proposal looks like. There's also a number of excellent sources for learning how, if you've never done it before, how do you write a book proposal? I want to point you to one. Laura Portwood-Stacer has a book by that name. Princeton University Press published it. That's okay, not U of A Press, but we'll go with it. It's called How to Write a Book Proposal. She also has a great website called manuscriptworks.com. Again, these materials we'll send out to you, which gives some great tips and worksheets to help you work towards a book proposal. So you've got a book proposal, you send it in. It, of course, goes through both internal review, just as a journal article with Journal of Arizona History would, but also with an anonymous external peer review. One of our roles as book series editors would be to suggest some peer reviewers to the University of Arizona Press who handle sending it out for peer review. And in fact, if anyone's out there interested in reviewing manuscripts, get in touch with us as well. We're looking for a good list, a good stable of external press reviewers. And as book series editors, of course, we read and evaluate the manuscript as well. Now, as you can probably see, Arizona Crossroads finds a really natural home with the University of Arizona Press. U of A Press has a longstanding focus on Arizona, the Southwest, and the borderlands. And to talk a bit more about the press and that's the premier publisher of those topics, I'm going to pass over the mic to Kristen Buckles. Kristen?
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Laura, and everyone at the Historical Society, David, and thank you everyone for spending part of your Saturday with us. I'm really thrilled to be here talking about the University of Arizona Press. My name is Kristen Buckles. I'm the editor-in-chief at the University of Arizona Press. I've been at the press for 19 years, and I've been living in Arizona for 26 years. And I will say I love living in Arizona. I love learning about Arizona's history and the environment through the books that I work on. It's one of my favorite areas to work on. And so I am really thrilled about our partnership with the Arizona Historical Society to publish the Arizona Crossroads series. It's sort of a personal passion of mine, and I think I'll bring that passion to the books that I work on. And of course, it absolutely fits the mission of the University of Arizona Press to publish this book series, Arizona Crossroads. We are just absolutely thrilled to be working with the series editors, Dr. Morrissey and Dr. Turpie and the Arizona Historical Society. So just a little bit more, I'm just going to talk briefly a little bit more about the University of Arizona Press. We are a nonprofit, mission-driven publishing house staffed by 13 passionate people. We are part of the University of Arizona Libraries and have a lovely office here on the 5th floor of the UA Main Library. We were founded in 1959 by faculty from the Department of Anthropology at the U of A, and these were archaeologists, anthropologists, and ethnohistorians, because I think these folks recognize that there was a real need for a publishing house dedicated, at least in part, to publishing books about Arizona for all the reasons that Dr. Morrissey mentioned. Arizona is such a unique place and space. And so I think they really recognize that, and they started the University of Arizona Press in 1959. And so a case in point, the very first book that we published is a book called A Pima Remembers by George Webb. And George Webb is was an Akimel Adam rancher and farmer. And the book is really a history of the traditions and the history of indigenous people who lived along the Gila River just south of Phoenix. So the very first book is very much an Arizona history, indigenous Arizona history book. And so we've been doing this kind of work from the very beginning. A Pima Remembers is still in print, and in total, the press has about 1,600 books in print. We currently publish about 50 new titles a year. 80% of those books, those new titles, are scholarly books, and 20% are trade books or books for a broad general readership. And like all university presses, we have very specific publishing areas or lists in which we publish. For the scholarly books, this of course includes history, also anthropology, archaeology, indigenous studies, Latinx studies, border studies, and space science. For our trade book, the biggest area is of course Arizona and the Southwest. But we also do a bit of popular space science, and we have 3 very distinguished literary series that publish Native American literature, Latinx literature, and we have a bilingual Spanish-English poetry series. In both cases, whether a scholarly book or a trade book, if a project passes the initial in-house vetting process, which is very similar to the one Dr. Turpey talked about for the journal, then we may decide to send the project through peer review. And like the journal and like all university presses, our publication decisions rely heavily on the feedback that we receive from peer review. Now, our process is a single blind process where the reviewers know who the author is, but the author isn't told who the reviewers are. We generally commission 2 or 3 peer reviews, and it might take anywhere from 2 months to 6+ months to receive the reviews. If the reviews are positive, then we may move forward to present the project to our publications committee for contract approval. Once a project is under contract and after the author submits the final accepted manuscript, it takes about a year to publish a book. So the submission process, if you're interested in submitting for Arizona Crossroads or outside of Arizona Crossroads, the submissions process starts with a book proposal, like Dr. Morrissey mentioned, and we have on our website the proposal guidelines, and you'll get the link after the session. So we also receive submissions by email, so you can send me an email, kbuckles@uapress.arizona.edu. One of the things people ask, I'll just sort of go over some frequently asked questions. One of the things people will often ask me is, what is a good length for a book? And for a monograph, a scholarly monograph, I will say the trend is toward shorter books rather than longer books. Shorter books tend to be more appealing to readers and for course adoptions. And with the increasing prices of paper these days, shorter books are just less expensive to produce. So, we tend to look for books in the range of, 85,000, 90,000 words, which is about 250 to 300 double-spaced manuscript pages. Of course, there's flexibility there, but, if I were to give a number, that's what it would be. People also will commonly ask me about figures. Is it okay to include figures in a book? And there's an impression that figures do add to the cost of a book. And that is true to an extent that if it's a black and white figure, if you have a lot of them, it will add length to a book and therefore will increase the production costs. But really for figures, the costs relate to the time it takes to manage each one of those figures and make sure it gets in the book correctly and make sure it's a high enough resolution file and make sure it has its proper citation and caption. And right now we're also including alt text for the ebook. So there's just a lot of work around figures. So you'll just want to budget more time if you're including a lot of figures in a book. One also note about figures, if you are going to include figures, we encourage you to go straight to the archive and obtain the high resolution file for the figures. It's really important to work with the archive to get the high resolution file. They might charge a fee, but the fee is generally very small, and know that the fee is going to support the critical work that archives do to curate and preserve this important archival material. And I will say that I see a lot of photos in our books coming from the Arizona Historical Society and also UA Special Collections. So we have phenomenal resources here in Tucson for research. So I've only just skimmed the surface here. I also want to underscore the resource, the book that Dr. Morrissey mentioned, the book proposal book by Laura Portwood-Stacer, and you'll get more information on that. And also there's another phenomenal resource. It's called, if you Google Ask Up, Authors Seeking Knowledge from University Presses. This is a resource that was created by the Association of University Presses to really demystify the publishing process. And it was a collaboration among all different university presses to really put together all of the most frequently asked questions about publishing into one source. So Google Ask Up and you'll find it, or I think we're going to send that out after the presentation. So again, thank you very much. I was really happy to join the group today. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Key.
Thank you, Kristen. Thanks for taking time out of your Saturday. Well, along with being the managing editor at JH, I also am the coordinator for the Arizona Historical Society Research Fellowship. And I just want to give you just a quick overview of the fellowship. Every year around late September, we open up our research fellowship in which we grant scholars, researchers, writers, anywhere from $500 to $2,000 to help defray the cost to come to Arizona and come and research. And this doesn't just mean that you have to do all of 100% of your research at AHS, although you're going to find tons of stuff here anyways. But, you know, you also can go to UA Special Collections and State Museum and, you know, in Tempe, but you just have to spend a majority of your time at AHS. But we absolutely realize that you need to go to other archives. So it's a way of helping, you know, people come to Arizona and come research our amazing archives that we have, that we know once we get you in here, you're going to just fall in love with it. The fellowship is it's pretty easy compared to other grants. You know, you have to have a prospectus, a cover letter that tells us about your project and, you know, what you're looking for, what you're kind of writing for. We also know that things change, right? Once you get in the archives and you're like, wow, that's not exactly what I was hoping to find, but hey, look at this, right? In that prospectus, we want you to tell us about your project, what AHS collections and resources you're going to help, and that's really the most important. Sometimes we'll get some prospectus where it doesn't really give the committee a good look at what you're actually coming to the archives to come look at. So, you know, take a look at our catalog, take a look at Arizona Online Archives. Make sure that you know, at least a general idea of what collections that you wanna look. How are these resources going to contribute to your project? How can we help you write an amazing, you know, dissertation, an article, or a book? That's really what we're looking for. So, you know, your prospectus is obviously the most important, taking your time really to tailoring your research and what resources you're going to use. You know, you can use the funds for travel and lodging and meals and, you know, photocopying, photo reproduction, you know, like Kristen said, that that's for an article and for, you know, a book. You have to have those high definition images. The good thing is that we have amazing archivists here that can help you look for some images. So all of the information for the fellowship is going to be on AHS website. Again, it opens around end of September, and you'll have a couple of months to submit. We usually we have a committee and they look it over, and you will usually get word in mid-December. Nice holiday present, maybe. And then you're eligible to come to Arizona if you are one of the awardees from January to, you know, next December. So make sure that you take a look at our website or contact me or Dr. Turpey for more information on the fellowship. That we have seen just amazing success with this, and that if you look through social media and on our feeds, the fellows that have come here have found amazing things. It has really helped their project, and they've really enjoyed, you know, being here in Tucson and Tempe and getting a feel for what actually is here, not just in the archives. So I encourage you to put in your application for this fellowship. It really is an amazing thing, and it's we're really low key. And once you are a fellow, you are a fellow for life. We take care of you for your time, you know. So don't think that we just, you know, give you the money and you're off. So take a look at our website, and we're going to be giving you all of these contact information, the email addresses, the programs, you know, that Dr. Morrissey and Kristen told you about. So don't worry about trying to scribble it down, but you can always look at AHS website and UA Press website if you want to get a head start. But we will get you out those contacts next week. Also, please use the question and answer feature here. If you have any questions, we're happy to do this after our program. Well, at the end of our program. I'm going to lead it over to our archivist, Isabel and Perry, who are amazing. Isabel's up in Tempe, and Perry is down in Tucson. And if you come and visit, you get to meet them. And they are the most knowledgeable, as you all know. Archivists run the world, save democracy, all kinds of stuff. So make sure you all listen to them. Perry, Isabel, it's up to you.
Well, I will also say, Laura, I see a couple of our past fellows or current fellows in the that are participating today, and I will say I think they could echo that we have a lot of fun. I feel like I've made friends through the fellows that we've had in, and so I just want to echo what you said about how, I mean, we're pretty low key, but we also have a good time, as good of a time as one can have in a cold, chilly, hard chaired archive. But so Isabel and I are here today representing the AHS archives. I know that sometimes people think that we have a huge team, but it's actually, there's just 4 of us throughout the state: Isabel and Jen in Tempe, and Rachel and I in Tucson. I wanted to just give like a really brief, a little bit of information about what we do have, what we don't have, what we can and can't help with. Because I know that's, you know, the main question people come to us with. So as we mentioned in the very beginning, AHS has been around a very, very long time. And it was from pretty much the beginning of that they started to collect things. In the beginning, the collection was really about getting the stories of the pioneer families who had, you know, mostly white families who had come to Tucson and settled here prior to the railroad. So some of the earliest things that we have are really like, we had a secretary in Edith Kitt in the 30s who really sat down and started to like write down people's stories and collect family photographs and things like that. But we have items that range from a few items from the Spanish colonial period all the way up to today. We have 3 locations for the AHS archives where our collections are held: Tucson, which is the oldest, Tempe, and also our northern collections at NAU. The northern collection photographs are stored in Tempe, but the manuscript collections are at Klein Library at NAU. And then we also get questions sometimes about our Yuma collections. We used to have Yuma collections, but those were all transferred quite a few years back to the Yuma Public Library Special Collections. And Lori Boone there is very helpful and can help you find Yuma specific collections. The way that the AHS archives is divided, it's roughly by geographical area. So the Tempe location is really central Arizona. The Tucson location is a lot of southern Arizona. And there's a little bit of a rough time period division in that the Tucson location, because it's oldest, has a lot of the territorial records, and the Tempe location has a lot of the more modern day 20th century records. But it's kind of hit or miss, and it depends. So the best way to find that out is to search our collections, which will give you a little bit of an intro into how to do. And just to call us or email us really is better. Email us, you'll hit one of the 4 of us, and we can help steer you towards whether it's something we have at AHS, or we're also, as Laura said, super knowledgeable about like what institutions in the state, what special collections have what. So we have, because we've been around for so long, we have millions of things. We have millions of photographs, thousands of manuscript collections and photo collections. The Tempe Archives has a ton of architectural drawings. That's one of the specialties there. And I mean, there's really just maps. We have people come in and say, you have any maps? And we're like, okay, so what do we not have in a map, right? So it really goes back a really long time, and we have quite a large archive. So a little bit of just like how to search is if you go to the Arizona Historical Society's website and look on the research tab, there's an library and archives section, and we've actually written up a guide that I believe Laura is going to send a link out to. It's just an easy how to search our collections guide that we put together a few years ago, just to help you guys out with that. We really recommend that you start by just doing a keyword search of our catalog, but don't stop there. I think a lot of times people will just put something in, and when a result doesn't pop up, they go, oh, they must not have something. But you know, as all archives do, sometimes there are things that aren't properly put in the catalog, or sometimes there are things that are not fully represented. So the best way really is to do that initial search, so we know that you have, you know, taken the initiative and done a little bit on your own, and then email us and say, this is what I found. Is this all? And Isabel will be like, wait, I know exactly where you should look. I mean, we're kind of like walking inside. It's just walking Googles. That's what we kind of joke that we are. So I think Isabel's going to talk a little bit about the collection highlights in Tempe, and then I'll tell you a couple of my favorites in Tucson.
Okay, so if you haven't noticed, we love to share information, and we just know enough to get into trouble. That's really our motto. But in Tempe, you know, it's my job now to kind of represent a little bit of our collection material here, and we do get a little bit more of the, you know, mid 20th century is really where we are, and my next task is to beat out Tucson for the amount of researchers. So I'm hoping all of you are coming to Tempe instead of Tucson. It's a little competition we're on. But things that people don't necessarily know that we have is, like, we have the St. Mary's food bank collection. That is an interesting one to piece into. And a lot of people don't actually know that in the food bank world, St. Mary's was the first. That's another highlight of Arizona history that people are not really looking at. And it's a really intriguing organization, not only for in the past when they started, but today. It has ramifications for today. Things like Planned Parenthood of Central and Northern Arizona collection. This is a very hot button topic right now, but as we all know, there's historical relevance for everything that we're talking about today. So coming in and finding that, as well as just everyday people, I have collections that haven't been touched. I have Kay Baden collection that is actually, she was born in 1916 from Syrian immigrants to the US and became an interior decorator for a variety of people throughout the state. And so it's kind of collections like that that can give insight into more of the individuals of the state, as well as the private and not always public organizational structures. I think that we have a duty to kind of represent our collections the best that we can. So if you do give us a call, I will try to find you something that works for your project. I might not have the answer, and I will assist you with finding the correct archives for you, but I will try to make that connection with you and guide you to any material that we have here. So a phone call, as Perry said, or an email. As you did an initial search, you didn't find anything. That doesn't mean it didn't come walking through my door. Donations happen all of the time. And if you are clued into a good donation, let us know. We have donation collection review committees every month. We are still looking for donations, and we are still intrigued in all of the stories that are unfolding right now, because an archives job is never done. So we need your help on that end too. So we can do a back and forth. And I think Perry would really agree with me, is that researchers give us as much information as we give them. So you tell us a story, we can pass it on to the next person who's interested in it. So research really is key. And we're always here to help you. So Perry?
Yeah, and I just want to give a little plug for, I will say a little bit of a hesitant plug, but we recently were able to I know David mentioned that we have mining special issue coming up, and we were able to get the Arizona Department of Mines and Mineral Resources records that have been locked up since that department closed, and they are now in Tucson. There's over 500 boxes, and they're a little bit of a mess, but we'd love for you to come in and help us organize them and get through them. So just a little plug for anybody who's interested in mining history, and to just look through our collections and see what you can find, because like Isabel said, there's so much there that is untapped. A little frustrating for us as archivists because we know it's there. So feel free to reach out. I think they're going to send out our contact info, but I saw a question in the chat about how to make an appointment. That's the same. The answer is the same. Just call us, email us, and we will schedule you an appointment in either of our archives to come in, and then that way we'll be able to focus on you and give you the help you need. Laura?
Thank you, Perry. Thank you, Isabel. We could spend like hours with you, and sorry for the short time because, again, they do know the collections better than anybody. So I'm going to go through a couple of question and answers. I think this one is going to be for Kristen and to Dr. Turpie. Does an author have to pay some or all of the costs of publishing an article or book? I understand that some journals require this. And doesn't the University of Arizona also publish the Journal of the Southwest? What kind of submissions are they looking for?
I can start off. There's no fee whatsoever for publishing in the Journal of Arizona History. And yes, you are correct about the Southwest Center at the University of Arizona publishes the Journal of the Southwest, and I believe it's an interdisciplinary journal, and they're open to any field, any topic in the Southwest.
And so for us, there are some fees associated with publishing. The one common fee is the index. The author will always be responsible for, if they do not create the index themselves, they will have to hire someone, and that will be a cost that they're responsible for. Also, any fees related to the creation of figures or figure files or permissions, those are also the author's responsibilities. So for the book publishing, those are the fees that authors are responsible for.
All right. Do authors receive financial compensation for publications? David?
Not with the journal, no.
Kristen?
Yes, for books, there are royalties for each book, but keep in mind, let's see, don't expect to get rich from the royalties from scholarly book publication. But yes, there is some compensation related to book publishing.
Next is, I should be able to do this one. Should we email David if we would be interested in writing on one of the potential special issue topics for the journal? Yes, 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 and more yes. Absolutely. You can just email and say, hey, I'm thinking about an article on this, and I've done some research, or I'm going to do some research, or hey, I'm going to apply for the fellowship or whatever. Absolutely. We're, being a state journal and, a smaller team, and we're more, I guess, personal. We're more of colleagues kind of thing with our authors and potential authors. That's kind of the, I guess, the good thing about us, is it's not so formal and everything. But yeah, just you drop David a line, me a line, whatever, and let us know what you're thinking. All right. Next, are there any tips for reprinting Arizona historic books? Any companies to use? I'll do that one first because it's a two-part one.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Like finding a publisher to reprint that someone.
Well,
Yeah,
first off, make sure you check that we don't have it, because we have a lot of books. Like if there's a book that you can't find and that you're looking for, if that's the question, then yeah, make sure it's not hiding in an archive somewhere.
Catherine?
I was going to say that the University of Arizona Press has, as Kristen suggested, republished some of their earlier Arizona history books. So Apima Remembers, for example, and has done a great, Kristen helped me out here, the series that you do, which goes back to books that you've already published, but then puts a sort of updated online open source introduction or reimagination of those historic books. Is that, I don't know if that is helpful or not.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, so there are, if a book is sort of in the public domain, for example, like if it's old enough where it's in the public domain and it's something or something we've published, we might consider making it available as an open access resource. We have a platform called Open Arizona, and it would be an ebook, an open source, open access book. So that is one thing we've done with the sort of earlier University of Arizona Press publications. I think if you're interested in like a book that was, maybe published a long time ago and is no longer available in print, if you're interested in like a publisher republishing it, the first step would be finding out if it is like who holds the rights to it. Making sure that is it public domain now? If it's not public domain, who holds the rights to it? Because you will need to sort of work with the rights holder first to make that resource available in print or as an ebook again.
All right, thank you. Next question. Should an author copyright a paper before submittal?
So I assume that's for the journal, and no, we ask authors to sign over copyright to the Journal of Arizona History if the paper's accepted. But of course, there's a clause in the contract that says if they want to republish it in another place, like in a book, we certainly allow that. But in terms of what's published in the journal, we hold copyright to that.
Okay. Same thing, David, another question for you. For the JAH, who pays for the photographs that are historically significant but are located in institutions outside of Arizona?
It depends. I don't think I've ever asked an author to pay for an image. So we occasionally do pay for images, or we just, if it's the cost is prohibitive, then we just haven't published with those images in the past. So I don't know if that answers the question well enough, but
I think we also help find images, right, David and I, like let's say if there is a cost prohibitive one, again, have amazing archivists, I bet they could find a companion one that will also work and everything in our archives or something like that. But we have a good relationship with other archives in the state. It runs a little bit more if we're talking about NARA or Smithsonian or something like that, that might be a little bit more difficult, but it's not, the problem hasn't come up since I've been here, so try not to worry about that. Next, I think this would be for Kristen. Thank you for this panel. I was wondering at what stage of a research project would it be best to reach out to a book series editor or the journal? Should we have a manuscript or draft completed before reaching out? And thank you again.
Well, can I jump in ahead of Kristen?
Absolutely.
Sure. So it's different with the book series, right? We are, as a book series editors, we're committed to try to shepherd books to the Arizona Crossroads. So we've had preliminary conversations with authors who have a research project in mind, and they want to sort of brainstorm and think about it. And we work together to try to see if it's something that will fit with Arizona Crossroads. I've had a series of those over the last year. And, these are preliminary conversations that could lead to, writing a book proposal or process along those ways. So we're open to that, and are excited actually about being early engaged in the process. We don't have to be as involved, early engaged in the process, but it's something that we offer. Now, I'll let Kirsten speak to University of Arizona Press and their involvement in that.
Generally, it's great to have a book proposal or something on paper that I can read before we have a conversation. So even if the project is at like just sort of an idea stage, getting a sort of a draft proposal is great, just so I have, sort of something to go to sort of wrap my head around the project before a conversation. So I would say, to answer that, feel free, if there's even sort of a glimmer of an idea about a project, to reach out to me via email. If you have something in writing, that's even better.
And for the journal, I'd say, if you have a completed manuscript and you think it's ready to submit, please, by all means, send it to me. Or if you just want to reach out and start a conversation about your research and what you're thinking of writing, I'm happy to carry on a conversation. Or you can get in touch with Laura or both of us. So it's really any time.
Great. Next, does Arizona Crossroads own the copyright of anything written for or used in their books? Are you allowed to submit a paper to different academic newsletters, publishing companies?
Let's see if I've understood the question correctly. So once a book has been published with University of Arizona Press, who owns the copyright? And can you, as the author, take that information and publish it someplace else? I can't answer that from the U of A Press, but I can answer that from the perspective as an author who has gone to the University of Arizona Press and say, hey, I'd like to take part of a chapter that I've already published with you and use it for this other purpose. And I need to get permission from them to do so. They've been open to that. And so I know that's been the process I've followed, if that makes some sense.
I'll just add that our books are generally copyrighted under the name of the Arizona Board of Regents. But we do work with, excuse me, authors and very friendly about authors using their own content in other kinds of publications.
Next, for the UA Press, do you like to hear from PhD candidates who are looking to transition their dissertations to books in the near future?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I love those conversations. For sure, that's a whole different conversation about revising the dissertation into a book, and I love having those. So feel free to email me.
And I'll echo a second one. Some of our conversations have been with graduate students who are finishing up a dissertation and thinking about a place for publication. So we can join into that conversation as well.
All right. All right. Well, we're about out of time. And I want to thank everybody, especially the panelists, for giving of your time on a Saturday. I know you all are all busy and have other things to do. So for you to take time out and come and talk to everybody, we had a great turnout. And I really want to thank you for lending your time and expertise. And for all of the panelists, thank you for joining us. You will be getting a link to the video and our resources page with everything that our panelists had talked about today. With the links and contact information and websites. So hang tight, you'll be getting that either Monday or Tuesday, somewhere around there. But feel free to log on to our website, Arizona Historical Society or UA Press, and our contact information is there and everything. So don't hesitate to reach out. We love to hear about it. You know how historians love to talk to people and stuff. So, so just don't hesitate. And I hope you all got something from this program. And, I look forward to, hearing from you all, and just come to Arizona and come research. I guarantee you will find something, I promise you. So So take care, everybody. Have a wonderful Saturday. Be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.